break your fast, to accept Allah's gift. So you could fast those days first and then you make up the 6 days. Because Rasulullah said, whoever fasts Ramadan, and you didn't finish Ramadan, you didn't complete Ramadan. Yes. Yes. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says Allah has given you gifts, so accept Allah's gifts. And subhanAllah, one of our mashayikh, he was traveling once, I think from Russia. I don't know, he had a conference, so he said, I decided not to fast. I decided to fast. And I said, you know what, I'm not going to take the rukhsa, I'm going to take the, the azima and the strength. He said, I left there before Fajr, and then we flew out, it was morning. So it was like 10 hours. Then when we got to the place where we had to land, it was already morning there too. So okay, I continued another 10 hours. Then we got to another place, it was 10, he was like, what's going on? So he said, I ended up fasting more than like 30 hours or something because it was all day. And I said, you know what, I'm never gonna do that again. I'm just gonna take what Allah gave you a gift. It's a gift. Because people feel bad about breaking their fast. Are we live? Oh, you are? MashaAllah. I know. MashaAllah. Okay. طيب, let's go. Let's start inshallah the tafsir. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala wa tabi'a hudahu ila yawm ad-din wa ba'd. We'll continue inshallah the tafsir of Surah Al-Qasas. And yesterday we stopped with the last verse number 13. قال ولا تحزن sorry. فرددناه إلى أمه كي تقر عينها ولا تحزن ولتعلم أن وعد الله حق ولكن أكثرهم لا يعلمون. I want to tell you something of a benefit that I learned from my Shaykh rahimahullah ta'ala rahmatan wasi'a. SubhanAllah, just came now. Everything is reminding me of him for the past 2 days for some reason. But inshallah it's khair. He said when you are reading the tafsir, someone was reading to him. He said when you're reading, a lot of us, we don't read the Arabic version, okay? Or we don't read the surah because we're familiar with the surah. Like for example, if you're reading a book that is written by somebody, okay, Islamic book, and there are verses of the Quran there. So for example, he says, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah, قُلْ أَوَاللَّهُ أَحَدَ اللَّهُ الصَّمَدُ. Some of us, we skip that because we already know the surah. So we'll just read, then we'll be like, oh, we know the surah. Everything you read in that book has no reward. Nothing. You don't get hasanat. You're just benefiting. Except that surah, every letter of the surah is 10 hasanat. So a lot of time, I had some students, they used to say that, as Allah said in the Quran, and then they move on. What do you mean? Allah said, read the ayah. You're reading the book but not the ayah. It should be the other way around, because we're not getting rewarded for the reading. The reading is good. We benefit from the reading, like explanation, but we're not benefiting from the letters. But the Quran, when you read it, so I actually do that sometime, and it's wrong. I need to keep reminding myself. Or for example, you say فَرَدَدْنَاهُ إِلَىٰ أُمِّهِ الْآيَةِ. We return him to his mother, the verse. Because people know the verse, so you're kind of referring them to the verse. Read it, just finish it off. Finish off the reading, okay? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, today's ayat inshallah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. قال الله عز وجل ولما بلغ أشده واستوى آتيناه حكما وعلما وكذلك نجزي المحسنين. He said, وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ, when he reached maturity age. وَاسْتَوَى, and was complete. We bestowed upon him hikmah and knowledge, wisdom and knowledge. And though we reward the doers of good deeds. طيب. Here, وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ وَاسْتَوَى. Any one of you memorize Surah Yusuf? Okay. Do you have a Quran? Okay. I want you to go to Surah Yusuf And I want you to read to me what Allah said about Yusuf. Here, Allah said in the second page about Yusuf, وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ. Also Allah said the same thing. When he reached, وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ, what? آتَيْنَاهُ حُكْمًا وَعِلْمًا. So there is no وَاسْتَوَى. Okay? What does the, why in Yusuf? Okay, first, okay, everybody's getting the ayah. I'll give you a second to look at the ayah. It's the same ayah as Surah Al-Qasas, exactly. Except one word. وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ وَاسْتَوَى. The word stawa means complete. In Musa, he mentioned that word, but not in Yusuf. So do you think there is a reason for that? Alhamdulillah. This is the best answer. Even if we don't know, because we already agreed, the Quran does not mention what? Extra word. ولا take out. لا. When the Quran specifies, there has to be a reason. So we're going to know why is that comparison right now. But before, وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ. When he reached maturity age. طبعا the ulama says, when is maturity age? Could be age 18 to 20. Okay? Little more mature would be a little more than the 20, close to the 30, and so on and so forth. Which seem to be in the 20s. Okay? وَاسْتَوَى. So Musa alayhi salam was raised in the house of Fir'aun as his son. Okay? Now, Yusuf alayhi salam was raised in, first, he was raised in the first age of Yusuf, his family's house, his dad. When you're raised in your house, you're spoiled. Even some of you don't believe that, but that's your problem. You're spoiled, kind of. You get what you want, okay? طيب. Pay attention to this now here. Yusuf, at age 6, 7, 8, 10, his brothers took him, they placed him in the well. Musa, Fir'aun took him and raised him in his house. So Yusuf is in a well, Musa is in, not just a house, a castle, a nice castle of Fir'aun. Okay, طيب, keep going. Now, Yusuf got out of the well, then he was sold as a slave. Musa got out of his home and he was giving to Fir'aun, so he became the son of a king. طيب, you have a slave, you have a king. Now, after the slavery, the problem with the women, okay, happened in the house, and the temptation and all that. So Yusuf alayhi salam went through hardship, and then he was set into prison. Musa alayhi salam grew in a house, he got whatever he wanted. So now, who's spoiled? Musa alayhi salam, yes? طيب. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he spoke about Yusuf, he said, وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ. Okay, when he, okay. وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ. When he reached maturity age. For Yusuf. آتَيْنَاهُ حُكْمًا وَعِلْمًا. We gave him wisdom and knowledge. For Musa, he said, وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ وَاسْتَوَى. Why didn't he use that for Yusuf? The word, okay, the word stawa literally means what? Huh? Those people who cook, they know. Stawa means what? Well done. Well done. So Allah did not say that for Yusuf, but He said it for Musa. Why wasn't Yusuf well done? Why Musa was well done? Huh? Huh? In Yusuf, there is no stawa. Why? When he reached maturity age, we gave him wisdom and knowledge. For Musa, when he reached maturity age and was complete, istawa, he was well done, we gave him wisdom and knowledge. So why is it that the use here is different from the use here? We just said it right now. Because Yusuf was well done when? Since the day one. Musa alayhi salam was not, when you cook meat, okay? When you cook meat, you take the meat, you put it in water, 5 minutes, you take it out and you eat it, yes? No, I'm actually asking a question. Yes? You don't do that. Why? Huh? It's gonna be tough. The meat is not well done. Why? Because it did not take time to be cooked. So for Yusuf, Allah is saying he was cooked from day one. He went through so much that when he got to maturity age, he was already well done. For Musa, no, he was not well done, he was spoiled. So if you give him knowledge and wisdom now, he's not ready. Musa needed time to be well done. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ وَاسْتَوَى. First he has to be well done. So Allah had to send him through some kind of tests. Why? Because all his life he didn't go through any. And that's why it is very hard for people who are spoiled so much, okay, to hold on to the religion that easy unless they give up everything. They must suffer. Allah sent them through this test, and you're questioning, why is it that when he was a disbeliever, he was more spoiled? When he became Muslim, he's like Mus'ab ibn Umayr radiallahu anhu. Mus'ab ibn Umayr, his life was a spoiled life. Mus'ab ibn Umayr, he used to wear clothes that is made for him in Yemen, and his mother used to ship clothes for him, okay, like export clothes for him, and she used to put perfume on his body, that the clothes that he wears on Saturday, he would not ever put it on again. The perfume that he had on, if he walks in the streets of Mecca, they recognize that Mus'ab walked in this street because of the smell of perfume. He's well known. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw him after Islam, he cried. He was sitting down in Medina. He saw a young man crossing by. His thobe was up to close to his knee, okay, because that's all he could afford. One piece of cloth, very old. So he said, "Do you know him?" They said, "Yes." The Ansar don't know Mus'ab before Islam. He said he's the ambassador of Islam. They said, "Yeah, that's Mus'ab." He said, "Wallahi, you don't know anything about him. We used to see him in Mecca. He used to change clothes every day, okay, a new set, and the perfume. Look at him today." And then when he died, they couldn't find clothes to cover him. Why? Because a spoiled life might ruin a person's life. And this is very important for the parents too. That's why Yusuf alayhi salam is going to go through so much in his life. He's going to go through slavery, prison, till he became a minister. So if he stayed with his father, he would not be able to live those lives, because he'll be spoiled. Very hard. He's not used to that lifestyle. So for Yusuf, he has to go through more tests at the beginning, because he has so much more that he's going to suffer from. For Musa, he did not have to go through that, because his mission started right after revelation, or right after he left Egypt. This is when his life completely changed. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used the verse, he literally mentioned that Yusuf, no completion, because the completion happened. For Musa, the completion needed to happen. So he said, وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ وَاسْتَوَى آتَيْنَاهُ حُكْمًا وَعِلْمًا. So this is for all of you. وَاسْتَوَى, you also have to run through this. The deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not an easy thing to carry on. And if you don't have the strength, okay, if you're just gonna get used to the luxury that we live in, I'll tell people all the time, for Hajj and Umrah, for example, sometimes you take someone to Hajj, I see that all the time. You take someone to Umrah, they're complaining about the towels in the hotel, they're complaining about the hotel AC being Habibi, wallahi, people before you did not, they did Hajj in the desert. This is luxury. No, this is not. To them, the 5-star in Mecca and Medina is a 2-star here. So it's a problem. Subhanallah, and people wish to go for Hajj even if they're going to sleep in the street, and you're sleeping, mashallah, at the Hilton convention or something, and you're still complaining. Why? Because they don't have that concept of wastawa, concept of being complete, going through hardship, going through afflictions. That's why people who go through these things seem to grow mature faster than those people who are spoiled. Okay? Allah said, آتَيْنَاهُ حُكْمًا وَعِلْمًا. We gave him, we bestowed upon him hikmah, wisdom and knowledge. Anyone know the definition of hikmah? What is wisdom? What does wisdom mean? There's no wrong answer. What do you think? What does wisdom mean? Well, Allah said hukman wa ilman, so we have to separate between both. There is knowledge and wisdom. Know what's right, what's wrong. Okay. Experience. Well, Allah said hukman wa ilman. La, cannot be knowledge because knowledge is mentioned. الحكمة هي قول ما ينبغي في الوقت الذي ينبغي على الوجه الذي ينبغي. It's saying the right thing at the right time to the right person in the right format. That's wisdom. Wisdom is what? Saying the right thing. So you already know what's right, what's wrong. That's part our dear brother Sayyid Ali told us. Okay, number one. So knowing knowledge, you know what's right or what's wrong. So saying what is right to the right person at the right time in the right way. You cannot come to someone's janazah and they're burying their father and they're doing something wrong and you come and advise them. That's not wisdom. Because their heart is going to do what? Reject. This is not the time to tell them this is right and this is wrong. You cannot go to someone at the hospital, for example, and tell him like he's sick. You say, oh, what's wrong? Oh, I have a headache. You're like, oh, subhanAllah, my grandfather died because of a headache. It's dumb. It's not wise. Rasulullah said, do not mention death upon visiting a person who's sick. That's wisdom. Why? Because this person, he wants hope. When you tell him my grandfather died and my uncle died and my father died and my grandfather died and my family member died because of a headache, most likely this guy's going to do what? Die. Before you leave the room, he's going to be dead. So being wise, especially in da'wah. Especially in da'wah. There's some people, subhanAllah, they could turn away from Allah because of you and I. Because of the way we present things to them. How do we say it? When do we say it? Okay? So understanding that's wisdom. Knowing when to say something, the right thing. You might actually have the truth, but you don't know how to present it. The biggest problem we have today, as some of the scholars used to say, that Islam is a winning case presented by bad lawyers. And this is true 100%. Islam is a winning case. Islam is true. Rasulullah sallam, most people became Muslim because of his da'wah or his characteristic. His characteristic. They just saw him, they fell in love with Islam. Subhanallah, just because we're mentioning, and I want to keep the remembrance of my sheikh in my heart. He was in the hospital and he was very sick. You know, he had high diabetes and, you know, problem with his kidneys and all that. So he loved Sheikh al-Munshawi rahimahullah ta'ala and he used to listen to him a lot. So he was playing on his iPad, Sheikh al-Munshawi, very loud. So the nurse, she was from Philippines, maybe not Muslim either. So she came and she said to the Sheikh, she said, can you lower the volume of the recitation, what you're listening to, because your neighbor is being bothered because he's watching a movie. So the Sheikh's son was very irritated, like, we want to turn Quran off because this is a Muslim hospital supposedly. So the Sheikh turned it off. So he said, why would you turn it down? He said, because we do not want to harm our neighbor. He said, but he's harming us. He said, he will be questioned for his harm toward us, and we will be questioned for our harm toward him. I could listen to it. I could put a, for someone like us, we'll be like, who cares? This is Quran. Well, true, this is Quran. It's a matter of, you believe it or not, this nurse right there, okay, when she saw that and she saw people coming in and out and out, who's this? Why is this guy so special? What about him? This person's heart turned into Islam, even though she lived in a Muslim country for years. She was never, like, Islam was never presented to her in a way that she wanted to be presented. That's why they say, قَوْلُ رَجُلٍ قَوْلُ أَلْفِ رَجُلٍ forgive me, I always confuse this sentence. فِعْلُ رَجُلٍ فِي أَلْفِ رَجُلٍ أَجْدَى مِنْ قَوْلِ أَلْفِ رَجُلٍ فِي رَجُلٍ. An action of one person has more effect in 1,000 people than a statement or a talk of 1,000 people to one person. Yani one person could do something, a small act, he could change the life of 1,000 people. Now bring 1,000 scholars to talk to one person about Islam, they might not be able to convince him. Why? Because the talk goes from here and comes out from the other ear. But an action affects the heart. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed upon His prophets what? Hukman, complete wisdom, and ilman, knowledge. Nowadays we do have the knowledge. But we might be lacking the hikmah, the wisdom that we want to present it to people. قال وكذلك, you know the story of the guy I always mention, the guy who gave da'wah. Remember that when he was on a palm tree? Nobody remember that joke? No? Okay, no problem. قال وكذلك نجزي المحسنين, and this is how we reward the doers of good. Al-Muhsin, we are one of three, okay, mainly. Every one of us here is one of three. You're either a Muslim, which is stage what? 1. And then you are a Mu'min, which is stage 2. And then you are a Muhsin. Muhsin is the highest level. Now if I were to draw, I don't have a board here, but just try to picture it. If I were to draw 3 circles in each other, so one big circle, and then one smaller circle, and then another smaller circle in, which one would have more actions? Huh? Muslim is more action? The biggest is more action? I'm talking about actions. What are the actions of Islam? What is Islam? Alhamdulillah, everybody. Why is everybody so good? 5 things. Shahada, Salah, Siyam, Hajj, Zakah. So it is the smallest action, smallest actions. And then the bigger circle is Iman. And then the biggest circle is Ihsan. Now if you were to draw the 3 circles, but then based upon the followers, which circle will be the greatest? Which is the greater circle? Muslims. We have 2 billion Muslims. How many of those Muslims are mu'min? The circle is gonna get what? Smaller. How many of the mu'min are muhsin? What does ihsan mean? Ihsan is very simple. Rasulullah described it in the best way. قال كأنك تعبد الله كأنك ترى فإن لم تكن تراه فإنه. You worship Allah as if you could see Him, and we don't see Allah, but we know that Allah is watching over us and He could see us. This is ihsan. Ihsan means that I am sitting down, I'm sitting down in my own room at a time when no one is with me, no one is watching me, okay? And I have the biggest fitna in my hand. You know what's the biggest fitna, right? It's actually the phone. I'm not pointing. It is actually the phone. And I have it and no one is watching, okay? And I could do whatever I want. Ihsan will say what? No, I can't. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could see me. That's ihsan. That's why ihsan is more specified. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said for Yusuf alayhi salam, He also described him as a muhsin. Why? Because again, you are alone, and being alone, you could do whatever you want. That's why siyam siyam is a tool to help you to get to the level of ihsan. We could go into the kitchen, we could eat and drink without anyone seeing us. Can we? Yes, we can. And believe me, no one will know. Nobody could do a blood test to know if you're fasting or not. But then why aren't we doing that? Because we are fasting. We know Allah could see us. Can you imagine if we take that into every action of our life? Being inside a masjid is the same as outside of the masjid, is the same at home, is the same. Every a person is the same. He try his best. Yes, we're gonna fall into sins, that's humans. But the thing is, we try our best to watch that Allah is watching, that Allah could see me, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what's in my heart. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ended the ayah. He said, وَكَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ يعني Musa alayhi salam was among the muhsineen, among those who knew the truth. And why is that? Because he knew that Fir'aun's action was not right. And he knew that Fir'aun was an oppressor. And he knew that what's happening to Bani Israel is oppression. And the Coptic of Egypt at that time, he knew that these people were oppressing Bani Israel. So he did not stand with Fir'aun saying, well, he raised me, he took care of me, you know, he's like a father now, he's gonna, you know, he's gonna stop my allowance, and he didn't care. Who cares? Okay? And subhanAllah, that's why Fir'aun, when Musa was gonna come back later on, what's the first thing that Fir'aun told him? He said, Alam nurabbika fina walidan. He's reminding him, he said, didn't we take it? You were a kid, don't you remember? And he said, what favor are you holding for me? You killing Bani Israel? So he stood against the oppression. He did not just say, well, you want me to stand against my father? No. Al-Haq is Haq. The truth is truth. Okay, when you see something wrong, you stand against it. Of course, with what? Hikmah. Now, with wisdom that we just spoke about. Because you could stand against your parents. Like, in the old days, rahimahullah ta'ala, our Shaykh, one of his lectures, subhanallah, a person sent him a paper. He said, do I need to pay my parents for the TV that I broke? And the Sheikh said, where's this brother? So he didn't want to raise his hand. So he kept asking, so the brother asked. So he said, how did you break it? Yani, unintentionally, yani you don't need to. He said, no, Sheikh. You know, alhamdulillah, I was not following the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and after listening to you and the mashayikh, I became religious, start growing my beard, and now I went home, I took the baseball bat, and I said TV is haram, and I went boom in front of my dad. So my dad said, you broke the TV, I'm gonna break your head. Okay, if this is the deen, this is your deen, that's my deen. My deen says to break your head too, because the deen says for the parents, they could teach their children, you took the means. So the Sheikh said, I never told you to do that. Nobody ever told you to go home and just start breaking TVs or you know, this is not how you change people's do you think your parents are ever going to listen to you after that? Wallahi, even if you have the ultimate truth, if you show them like this is the book, they won't believe you. Why? Because same way with the parents. Sometime instead of teaching the children in a harsh way, you could deliver the message in an easy way with what? With hikmah, with wisdom, that subhanallah, it could lead them to the level of ihsan. I'll tell you, I'll do the story inshallah. When I was young, and I don't like to say personal story, but inshallah this just came to mind. When I was young, I used to play soccer a lot. And a lot means that I was a professional player, alhamdulillah. I got to a level where I was leaving the US for soccer, and I was leaving everything for soccer to go to Brazil and play, and I was, anyway, long story short. So I used to play in Egypt. I was, you could say that the trouble that I used to cause to my parents is to play soccer more than even going to school. So one day, I came very late after Isha, and my father said to me, may Allah cure him, Ya Rab. He said, where were you? And I could not come up with anything, because I was actually very late. So I was wearing my soccer clothes under my school clothes, so they won't see it. So I said, I was actually praying in a masjid. He said, where? And I said, just for example, I said, Woodland. I live in Davis. So he said, oh, mashallah, good. But Aisha already finished. I said, no, I did not just pray Isha, I prayed Maghrib. Then I said after Maghrib to read Quran in the halaqah, that the masjid, the sheikh has a halaqah, so I read. And then after Isha, because I could not read before Isha, my turn did not come, so I insisted on reading after Isha. So my dad said, okay, mashallah. Which masjid? I said, the Woodland Masjid, for example. He said, oh, mashallah, good. And then the night went on. That was Thursday. Saturday night, I had a class with a teacher, a Quran class. So the teacher, my dad already told him the story. So the teacher said, where were you Thursday? I said, I was praying in Davis. Because I know there's no way I'm going to tell, that's his masjid. So he said, oh, mashallah, why? Look at that. He said, why didn't you come with your father to Woodland on Thursday for Maghrib? I said, what? He said, your father was the one leading Salat al-Maghrib. And my father asked me, he said, do you recognize who was leading Salah? I said, no, the voice, I was far away. I mean, mashallah, the masjid is full, I can't tell from the hand. So the teacher said, why didn't you come? I said, because I was praying in Davis, I was very busy, Maghrib, and I had a lot of school work, you know. He said, oh, but you missed the Quran halaqah. I said, yeah, I know. He said, your father was the one leading the Quran halaqah. I said, that's more trouble now. And then he led Isha. And then he left. When he told me that, I got the message. I knew. I didn't go home that night. But when I went, subhanallah, my father came home. He did not say anything to me. I was just under the blanket after Isha, and I never sleep after Isha. That's not. I just went under the blanket. I was breathing so hard. I was sweating. I was shaking because I knew. And my father kept saying, where's Ammar to eat? Every time he says Ammar, I get very, like, Wallahi. That day, I decided, you know what? I'm going to try my best to not to lie. Because there is no way that I'm going to survive with lying. I ended up, that night was the worst night. It was the longest night in my entire life. Period. Then I could not sleep. I was shaking. I was crying. Like I knew, because not just that I lied about the salah, I lied about the Quran, I lied about the hadith, and I know that he exposed me from the first moment, so I was so embarrassed, so shy of him to even look at him, that I had to go to school. I usually wake up 10 minutes before school. I had to go to school after Fajr that day. I'm the only person there because I wanted to escape the house. But subhanAllah, the message, he could have done the opposite. I still remember, he could have done the opposite. He could have done like every parent. He could be like, you're lying and you're this and that, and then he'll beat me up, and I don't care, because the second day, I used to get beat up and go to soccer second day. Like, not a big deal. But that night, he did it in a way, he delivered the message through my teacher, and I knew that the teacher also knows, so I was more shy, more embarrassed. But I said, subhanallah. The main hadith that the focus was on that night, okay, in al-kadhiba, that lying does not lead to any goodness, and lying leads to hellfire. I never believed, I never actually believed that lying will make you survive. That night I knew that it will never make you survive. The lesson was taught. The point here is to teach the lesson, or just to take revenge and be angry and all of that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described the prophets to have what? Hikmah and knowledge, wisdom and knowledge, especially in the field of da'wah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during this blessed night, an odd night, to have mercy upon our Shaykh, Ya Rabbi. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to elevate his rank in Jannat al-Firdaus. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make his first night in his grave the most pleasant night of his life. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that now he has returned to Allah in his grave to ease in his questions. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless him and to widen his grave and to make it into a garden of paradise. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that now he witness all his good actions that he has done in dunya, especially defending the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and the greeting that he will get with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam when he returned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless him, to have mercy upon him, to forgive his sins. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make everything that he taught us in our life to be an intercession for him in dunya, and to elevate his rank in akhirah in the highest level of Jannah. And ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not to make us among those who abandon their teachers or speak ill of them, and to follow their footstep and the footstep of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us خير خلف لخير سلف, the best of students to the best of teachers. جزاه الله عنا خيرا ورحمه الله تعالى رحمة واسعة وغفر الله له وجعله في الصالحين. اللهم أنزله منازل الصديقين والشهداء والصالحين يا رب العالمين. اللهم أعلي درجاته في عليين. اللهم اغفر لشيخنا أبا إسحاق واجعل أول ليلة له في قبره خير لياليه. اللهم اجعله يا ربنا في جنات في روح وريحان. اللهم اجعل قبره روضة من رياض الجنان. أفسح له في قبره مد بصره وزيادة. اللهم الحقه بالصالحين بالنبيين والصالحين والصديقين والشهداء. اللهم اجعله في أعلى عليين. اللهم اجعل مرضه كفارة لذنوبه وخطاياه. اللهم اجزه عنا خير الجزاء. وصلى الله على نبينا محمد والحمد لله رب العالمين.